The Great Molasses Flood Disaster. In 1915, the Purity Distilling Company had built the gigantic tank in Boston's North End to supply its booze-making operations. The steel tank was enormous and capable of holding 2.5 million gallons of molasses. The massive tank was nearly full on January 15, 1919. Just after noon, something went horribly wrong. Witnesses later recalled hearing a noise like gunfire as the tank's rivets popped and the steel sides ripped open. Suddenly, 26 million pounds of molasses were tearing down Commercial Street in a 15-foot wave. The molasses snapped the support girders from an elevated train track and smashed multiple houses. The Massachusetts Foundation for the Humanities website claimed the property damage alone totaled around $100 million in today's dollars. The human cost of the disaster was even more grim. The wave of molasses moved so quickly and so forcefully that claimed 21 lives, and another 150 people suffered injuries. Any flood would have been disastrous, but the viscous nature of molasses made rescue attempts even trickier. Medics and police officers arrived on the scene quickly but had to slog through waist-deep goo to reach victims. Even after the victims had been pulled from the muck, cleanup crews quickly learned that getting rid of 2 million gallons of molasses is no small task. One of the chief obstacles to the cleanup that firefighters couldn't just use their hoses to blast the molasses off of buildings and streets with fresh water. Eventually they realized that salt water would cut the hardened molasses and enable them to hose it down the streets into gutters. In all, the cleanup effort required over 80,000 man-hours. Locals claimed they could still smell the molasses on warm days decades later. Investigators soon found the real culprit, though shoddy construction worker, as the man who oversaw the construction wasn't an engineer or an architect. In fact, he couldn't even read a blueprint. The tank needed to be an engineering marvel to hold all that weight, but the company never even consulted an engineer on the project. Basically, it threw up a gigantic tank as quickly and as cheaply as possible, skimped on inspections and safety tests. Modern studies have found that the tank walls were both too thin and made of a steel that was too brittle to withstand the volume of molasses. In light of these details, it's amazing that the tank held together for 4 years. Nearby residents reported that the tank had leaked since its construction. Rather than fix the problem, the United States Industrial Alcohol Company had painted the tank brown so the leaks would be less noticeable. The Great Molasses Flood still seems like a tragedy that could have been averted, but the disaster really drew attention to the potential repercussions of shaky construction.